Good morning, and welcome to Moments with Melinda. I am your host, Melinda Moulton, and today I have Wendy Rice with me. Hi, Wendy, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on my show. I want to tell my viewers a little bit about you before we jump into this interview. Wendy Rice is the principal of Vermont Connector. Wendy has volunteered with over 55 organizations in Vermont, the U.S., and abroad, including as a Peace Corps volunteer in Cameroon, Africa. She graduated from Vermont Law School and the Vermont Leadership Institute, and she is currently the president of the Green Mountain Peace Corps Volunteer Association. Did I get that right?
You got it all right. Yeah,
My heavens, a lifetime of service, Wendy. Thank you for being on my show.
my pleasure.
So let's start at the beginning. Share with my viewers a little bit about your childhood and who had the greatest impact on your life and inspired you to enter into the world of leadership, service, and volunteering.
Yeah, I grew up in southeastern Ohio, kind of in Appalachia, and in a very small rural community there, and then moved to a small liberal arts college town in northeastern Ohio. And coming from the Midwest, I think family is a very strong influence in your life. And my paternal grandmother, in particular, was very, very influential. She was an environmentalist, a storyteller, a puppeteer, an educator, um, uh, active in her church community, active in her civic community. And she just gave this example of appreciating our beautiful, wonderful world and taking care of the people that are in it and just connecting with community. And she really inspired a lot of my path in natural resource management, environmental law and policy, gender equity, civic, political engagement. She was very foundational to that trajectory. And then, of course, through lifetime, you have brilliant professors and teachers and mentors and jobs and all kinds of people that were willing to teach me and show me and open doors and challenge my thinking. And I'm grateful to all of those contributors in my life.
Is your grandmother still alive?
No, she passed when I was 17, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm so sorry that she didn't see your extraordinary career.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing I most wish you would have seen is my semester abroad in Australia. It was a human and natural ecology semester abroad field-based program, and she would have just eaten that up if she saw it.
Bless her heart. So talk to us about your time in Cameroon serving in the Peace Corps. How old were you? And talk to us about that experience.
Sure. I finished my undergraduate education at Colby College in Maine and spent about a year working for the National Park Service before I enlisted for the Peace Corps. Somehow I knew from a very young age, probably my grandmother's influence and her voluminous shelves of National Geographics that were in her bedroom that I like to peruse, that I wanted to do Peace Corps, and I wanted to do Peace Corps in French-speaking Africa. So when I was 21, I left for the Peace Corps. I was an agroforestry and environmental education volunteer. So my responsibilities were essentially to do improved agricultural techniques and planting a lot of trees in the Sahelian region of Cameroon, which was also predominantly a Muslim community. And then I had the good fortune of extending my service. Usually it's a 2-year service. I did 3 years. And I moved to one of the national parks in Cameroon to do feasibility studies for a national park management and ecotourism program for Peace Corps Cameroon. And then I stayed in international development for another decade after I completed my service in Cameroon as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Wow, fascinating. Fascinating. Now, you have 16 years of professional experience managing multi-million dollar community development projects. Talk to us about your work doing that.
Sure. I worked for Peace Corps and then I worked for several contractors for USAID, unfortunately a defunct government agency at this point, to great humanitarian loss for the world in general. But I did primarily natural resource management and environmental policy projects. So I did work in Madagascar and um, more work in Cameroon around mining and extractive industries. And then I went back. My last tour overseas, I was overseeing a project that was um, looking at conflict diamond mining in the Central African Republic and trying to create property rights and environmental sustainability for small scale miners, and to also make sure that they were in legal compliance with international, the Kimberley process, international diamond certification schemes.
Wow. Fascinating. So let's talk to us a little bit about US Aid. I mean, that's an organization that you work for. Talk to us about what's going on right now and what's happening and how this must make you feel.
It's heartbreaking and horrifying. USAID was shuttered at the very beginning of this administration's last term, and not only did it unemploy a lot of Vermonters, including employees at Tetra Tech, which is Burlington based. But really, it's a massive loss to the global community. Those civil servants were the best civil servants that I knew, and they were actively working for democracy and governance, global health, environmental protection and conservation, counterterrorism. And I think they were really the best of us as Americans representing us abroad, and really leading with service from and good technical assistance to countries that need support in that way. And I think there's a lot of really negative consequences in terms of child health and global health and all kinds of things that are happening already. And
So
I
how many lives do you think have been lost with
oh
this
I
movement?
honestly I don't have a good number for you, but it's millions. I mean, program around HIV prevention, Ebola monitoring, food security, food distributions. It's in the millions, and
No. Talk to us about the Ebola. I mean, we're talking about this right now. We're going to move on to other things, but this just sort of hit our country that
yeah.
this is a real thing. Can you share with my viewers a little bit about what you know about it and how our the cutting of our funds are going to impact this?
I mean, I'm not a global health expert, and I'm not actively tracking it, so I'm limited in my response. But I mean, it's a very lethal, very fatal, very contagious disease that's working its way through Africa again, and without surveillance, without support, without future planning, without monitoring, without treatment, it will result in potentially thousands of deaths. I There was an American doctor who lived in my village in Peace Corps who was actually part of the Liberia Ebola response a few years back, and just significant that she did that response, and it's needed, and there's just not the staff and the resources to allocate towards that. And I
Because
think
this, yeah, this happened under Obama, and I remember he sent
yep,
people
yep,
over there and he's put a stop to it, and
yep,
that was
absolutely.
15 years ago. Well, your work has been service oriented and selfless in so many ways. I'd love it if you would talk to us a little bit about what you see as your greatest strengths in the work that you do.
Well, I think you alluded to it. I am my core values are community and service, and those drive every action. I want to build strong, resilient communities in Vermont and elsewhere, and I want people to feel empowered in their own lives, and that centers and grounds me in the work that I do. In terms of my skills, I've had a lot of years leveraging and managing very large, complex projects. So I'm a really good project manager. I'm really strategic, but I'm also surprisingly good at the operational details. Sometimes strategy and operations don't always align, but I think it's a skill that I have. And by the nature of the name of my business, Vermont Connector, of my nonprofit, I really like to connect people and resources and have deep networks, and am always interested in who's doing what and how we can leverage resources together and having collective action. So I think that shapes and frames things, and I just always want to solve problems and make systems better. So that again, those drive me.
That's really important for, I think, for us viewers to know what drives you. So you were engaged in the Vermont Leadership Institute. Talk to us a little bit about that institute and about your work with them.
Sure. The Vermont Leadership Institute has trained hundreds of change makers over the years in Vermont. It's run by the Snelling Center, and I think it was a really transformative leadership opportunity. One, to connect with so many thoughtful, change-making Vermonters that just want to wrangle with issues and do good. Was an amazing opportunity to see as much of the state as you do in that program, and to really understand the nuance of each community is also a gift. But I particularly like their approach because it's very much systems level thinking and decision making, and knowing which lever to pull on to effectuate change, whether that's policy and legislative action, whether that's media, whether that's technical assistance. It wasn't deep into management skills, but deep into thinking about systems and how systems work for people, and where you may need to compromise to elevate the system and to achieve action.
Very cool. So let's move into your new business. Well, I know how new it is, but how new is it? How new is the Vermont Connector? How long has it been around?
Technically, it started in 2018,
Okay, so it's been
originally to connect volunteers through the nonprofit and business community, and to bolster their civic action. But that was just prior to me having my first child, and also the
also
COVID-19
COVID.
pandemic.
So what I've learned, and I'll tell my viewers, is that Vermont Connector is a small, woman-led organization, a nonprofit that connects people, place, and passion through a coordinated approach to community service. So talk to us about this organization that I believe you founded and that you're running.
I did, yeah. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've shifted a bit. We had to pivot from the tight volunteer coordination aspect to more mutual aid service delivery, community mapping, and resource coordination. So our overarching goal is to build those strong, resilient communities through the mechanisms of mutual aid, volunteer coordination, and civic engagement. We strive to connect people and the resources in their community to amplify local voices and to inspire collective action. And so we were robustly involved in COVID-19 resource coordination, community mapping, as well as the 23 and 24 floods.
And what does that mean, Wendy? Because that may be above, my pay grade to understand that. But down on the ground, what does that mean that you did or that you're doing that
Sure.
where my viewers can be engaged and understand what you're doing?
Sure. So a couple very concrete examples during
Good, perfect.
the pandemic. I was mapping out all the food distribution centers. I was finding the sewing group and matching them to the business that was supplying the fabric. I was creating resource guides for help if you need to access unemployment or defer other taxes or legal things. So a lot of just connecting people and opportunities. Similarly, in the floods, after I finished my career overseas, I worked for FEMA for 4 years, including Irene and Sandy and Boulder floods. And so I also have a disaster recovery and resilience aspect of my career. And one thing I saw in Irene was that it was terribly important actually to monitor social media, because people don't go to government when they're in crisis, they go to their peers. And people were posting active real-time problems on social media. So I started the Facebook page that ended up having over 9,000 members.
Wow.
I compiled an amazing team of administrators, which included state legislators, and we reviewed and triaged every single post that was happening on that page when the event happened. We put it up on Monday as the flooding was starting, and by Wednesday it hit 6,000 people. We actively triaged every single problem. We wrote a resource guide. And then if we saw trends, we elevated the issue to a higher level. So for example, in the Barrie community chat, I was seeing a lot of chatter about brown water well after the flood event had passed. And people were afraid that it was contaminated, they couldn't drink it, they couldn't wash with it. So I just compiled data. I asked people their address. I asked them to send me pictures. And then that data got sent to the Department of Health and the Agency of Natural Resources through my legislative contacts, and they did water testing. They purged the lines. They tried to identify the problem. They could localize it with that data that maybe people weren't getting response to because they were just calling into a hotline. And it changed the immediate circumstances.
So you being Vermont Connector, you connect business and nonprofits to work together. You identify problems that you see around the state, and then you
Yeah.
jump in and create solutions. Do you, I mean, this is really led from your heart and your mind to be able to look around the state and say, okay, we have a problem. So what are, they're very human centered systems, and you actually use that word quite a bit. So so what are some of the issues that you're dealing with like now? Have you focused in on homelessness? What are some of the issues that are rising up to your, to your bandwidth at this moment in our
Yeah.
state's history? I'm sure there's a lot of
My
them.
bandwidth with a rising first grader and many things in the
Right,
world.
I know. And how
There are
many, and
many.
and it's a small organization. Is it pretty much you that's doing all this, or do you have a staff?
No, I'm the only staff member. I have been able to onboard 3 UVM interns in the
Good,
last year,
perfect.
and I have a wonderful advisory council. But functionally, it's me, and then I have some, communication support consultants and
That's
whatnot. But
fantastic. Well, share with us a little bit about some of the issues that you're seeing now in our state and how you're addressing them and how
yeah,
people can get engaged. Yeah.
absolutely. So there's so many issues and so many causes, and I honestly need to compartmentalize my energy and my strengths because I can't eat the whole elephant, as they say. So I trust that there's a lot of activists and a lot of champions that are addressing the issue that's most core to them. But the issue that surprisingly has taken on a lot of steam for our organization is the baby product exchange. We started that in 2022 in response to the unmet basic needs that I was seeing in the community. And having just had my first daughter in my 40s, wanting to positively impact parenting and not realizing how hard it is in America. So the Baby Product Exchange has become a flagship program that's taken a lot of our focus right now. But essentially, we are collecting gently used baby gear, and we are redistributing that and diapering supplies. And we're redistributing that through a network of about 95 social service and mutual aid organizations. And we estimate that we've helped over 900 families. And on the surface, it may seem like just shuffling stuff
No, that's
around.
incredible. Truly, truly incredible.
It has really distinct environmental sustainability, economic security, access to basic needs, circular economy and community of care, and improving social service delivery implications. So it's a kind of little engine that could project that started out in my garage, and I got a bunch of support from the community for storage and other things. And now it's grown into a full-fledged program that is a valuable, trusted resource for families and social service workers
So,
across
how
the
do my
state.
viewers, all of my viewers who are watching this right now, how do they get engaged in this program? How do they contact you to drop off things that they might have? Because we all, as a grandmother, I have all these things that are sitting around. How do we contact you, and how do my viewers engage with the exchange program for baby products?
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can get involved. Financial support is helpful because it's been a mutual aid, volunteer-led initiative primarily. Um, Volunteering, helping with weekly inventory management, or if you have other technical skills like marketing and communication, that's useful. And we also do some pop-up events that need a flood of volunteers at the time. If you're a social service or mutual aid organization, we are continually looking for referral partners because we only distribute gear through that referral system. And then also, straight up donations of gear and keeping those moving through our state and through our circular economy. So to donate, I'm very proud to say that we developed an open source data app in conjunction with Code for BTV, which also did the Green Up app and a few other really cool projects in the state. And basically you load a picture, you load a brief description, I approve the quality of it and the need in our inventory, and then currently all pickups and drop-offs are in our Burlington office. But we do have some innovative systems to serve rural counties if that is a need and an interest.
Fantastic. So, also on the web, I found that you wrote a commentary on Let's Grow Kids about high quality childcare. You've been involved in that. You also have been quoted as saying volunteerism is a basic expression of human relationships. It is about people's need to participate in their societies and to feel that they matter to others. Now, for young people out there, I have so many young people who will say to me, "You've been on so many boards. How do I get on a board? How do I volunteer? How do I help others?" You're actually right in the core of that work. What is your advice to my viewers on how they can get engaged and serve on boards and get involved in serving their community? What's your advice?
Yeah, I mean, one, know what your interests are, know what your skills are, and reach out to organizations that align with your values. Nonprofits and other community institutions always need volunteers. And concurrently on my webpage, there is a link to many organizations and a link to their volunteer application or process. So that's a resource. In terms of boards and commissions, that still feels like a harder thing to access, but I know organizations like United Way and Common Good Vermont are trying to make those positions more public and have more equity and accessibility to those positions. I think in the past, boards have kind of been relational, interconnected people who know the organization versus people from the outside. But those are some resources to find those positions. And don't forget that there's also state and local government. There's boards and commissions. There's the Parks and Rec Commission. There's the Property Tax Commission. It depends on your locality, but there's lots of commissions. They always need volunteers. There's state level entities like Serve Vermont, which administers AmeriCorps Vista funds. There's Vermont Commission for Women, which helps to decide policy and programs for women and women identifying individuals for the state and their advisor. There's so many, and I think there's an absence of there's not enough candidates to fill the need. And I think we also need to rethink volunteerism. It is a position of privilege to be able to volunteer. And so I think volunteers need to be also conscious of only asking for volunteer labor and not recognizing childcare constraints or being able to leave a job during the day to participate and build better systems to include more people.
So, for my viewers out there who want to get involved in volunteerism, these are great ideas. You can go to the website, which I believe is www.vermontconnector.org,
Correct.
right? Go to that website right now. There's so much information up there. And you are a nonprofit, so donations are critical to support the work that you do. So, my viewers can support by going to www.vermontconnector.org. So, you've talked a little bit about who benefits. Talk to me a little bit about the state of our world right now. We have about 5 minutes left of our interview, and Wendy, I want to talk. I want to talk to you about your view of what's happening, your vision for what is going to happen, for alleviating some of the concerns that my viewers have about what we're living through right now. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think the first thought is it is not the moment to be complacent, and it's not the moment to be overwhelmed or drowning in fear. It's the time for action, and leaders present in many forms, but the first starting point is passion and commitment, and bring that to the fore and fight, because a lot is on the line and it will affect many generations to follow. So don't drown in despair, act, find your people that are doing the same thing, and make space for self-care, because it's very easy to get burned out and torn down. The second thing I would say is that as a state, we know that our typical institutions are failing us because of federal changes to budgets, changes to programming, changes to eligibility criteria. We as Vermonters are really good at showing up for our neighbors, and I think civic engagement is core to who we are as a people, and we're doing that, but we can't sustain that, and we can't assume that traditional systems like nonprofits or state government will be able to keep doing what they've done. It's a disruption. It's a wildfire, and new Indian pipe flowers will shoot up afterwards. Like, it's an opportunity for change, innovation, integration, consolidation of resources, but also I think we really need to reinforce our mutual aid efforts and connect community resources who want to help but don't know how to help, and make that an embedded institution in our decision making, our policy making, our dialogue, and maintain those groups even when there's not a crisis, because it's that interconnectivity and that community response that we're so good at as Vermonters, but it has to be sustained and supported and connected to be really effective.
And Vermont Connector does that and can do that. So again, vermontconnector.org. There used to be an organization that had all the nonprofits on their web. They don't exist anymore, and they would hold events where all these nonprofits could come together. And when I went to chamber events, I'd always fill the table with nonprofit people. So
Yeah.
and then I started having breakfasts with nonprofit people. I mean, as Vermont Connector, thought about connecting all the nonprofits so they can kind of support each other and help each other. I know it's a big job. So if you want to talk to me about this later, we can
Yeah.
talk about it, because I think it would be very valuable. There's more nonprofits in Vermont per capita than any other
Yeah.
state in the union. So I think it would be valuable if we
I
all knew
think
who's out there and what they're doing.
I think Burlington alone has something like 450 nonprofits.
I
It's
know, it's
just insane.
crazy, right?
I would say for that, organizations like Common Good Vermont are doing an exceptional job
Great.
bringing
Thank you.
together the nonprofit community.
Thank you for that.
And I would be interested in helping to bring together those more gritty grassroots mutual aid organizations to help develop toolkits, communication pathways, to see what the challenges in the sector are, to elevate the conversation with state government, et cetera, and building out tools that can be adopted and widespread in our open source ideas or technology.
So to my viewers, reach out to Wendy Rice, who is the principal of vermontconnector.org, if you want to get engaged in the work that she's doing. Well, Wendy, we're out of time, but I want to thank you for your lifetime of service, lifting up humanity and making the world a better place for all. I want to thank you for being on Moments with Melinda, and I'm going to follow your work. Thank you so much for being here. And to my viewers, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I hope you get out. It's kind of a sunny day today, so get out and enjoy the day, and be of hope. Be of hope. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.